What exactly is an irrevocable trust? I've set up thousands of them. So how can it secure your financial future? So let's dive in and discover if this is the key to your peace of mind and financial freedom. So what is an irrevocable trust? An irrevocable trust is a type of trust that cannot be easily revoked or altered once it's set up. Establishing such a trust requires the settlor to relinquish significant control over the assets to the trustee. While this might initially seem like a drawback, it's actually a powerful advantage. By legally distancing the settlor from the assets, the trust makes it far more challenging for creditors to lay claim to them. Now consider this: if you, as the settlor, retained direct control over the trust's assets, a court could compel you, make you, use that control to satisfy a legal judgment. In other words, retaining control could ultimately leave you defenseless, as it effectively places the power into the hands of the court. In contrast, a trustee serves as a crucial buffer, protecting your assets and ensuring they remain out of the reach of legal adversaries. And I can tell you by my experience, this is even more powerful if it is an offshore asset protection trust, which we'll cover in a bit, because your local courts do not have jurisdiction over our law firm who serves as our trustee offshore. Now, here's some of the basics of setting up an irrevocable trust. Irrevocable trusts require three parties, as we said, the settlor, the trustee, and the beneficiary. When forming a trust, the settlor grants assets into the trust, though the grantor does not retain direct control of deposited assets. They can set usage conditions for those assets beforehand. The grantor establishes the trust assets' original rules, terms, and intended uses. Now, both the trustee and the beneficiary must abide by the grantor's wishes. For example, a grantor may specify that the money placed in an irrevocable trust should only be used for specific purposes, such as for college tuition or for wedding expenses. Now, when the settlor transfers assets into an irrevocable trust, they transfer ownership to the trustee. Still, the trustee cannot do whatever they want with the assets. Many states and offshore jurisdictions have very strict rules limiting the trustee's powers. They prevent trustees from conflicts of interest, and ultimately the trustee cannot inadvertently use trust assets for their own benefit unless the trust conditions allow it. Common benefits of an irrevocable trust. Irrevocable trusts have many advantages for those looking for a good asset protection and estate planning tool. They include the following: protecting assets from judgment creditors. In fact, I work hard for my money, and if somebody wants to take it from me, I'm going to make sure that they are going to work a lot harder. Removing taxable assets from the estate so the grantor can take advantage of estate tax exemptions. And this is a way to give a whole lot more to loved ones. Allowing appreciating assets to gain value without severe tax implications for the beneficiaries. Gifting a home to children with fewer tax implications so more money stays in the family. Gifting assets while being able to retain income generated from them. Hey, the government already taxed this money. Don't let them take any more than they legally can. Preventing misuse by beneficiaries via grantor wishes. It's easy to spend somebody else's money that you inherit. So your trust can pay for college and, let's say, require a bachelor's degree, master's, or doctorate degree before they can get any more money out of the trust. Now, at that point, you can have the trust give them a lump sum or pay them a monthly income. Okay, so here's why irrevocable trusts work best for asset protection. Now, the primary reason people use irrevocable trusts is to protect assets from lawsuits. So here's how it works. Legal theory commonly allows a creditor to step into the shoes of the debtor. In practice, this means that whatever the debtor could theoretically do to pay the creditor off, the creditor could force them to do so. For example, let's say the settlor of a trust could freely change the beneficiary. So in this case, the one who sued the settlor could step into the settlor's shoes and change the beneficiary to himself. In the same vein, if the trust allowed the settlor to independently spend trust assets on himself, the creditor could step into his shoes and do the same and pay themselves. A second asset protection benefit of irrevocable trusts is how they allow settlors to list out trust usage conditions. This ensures that the assets will not be used irresponsibly or in a manner that goes against the settlor's wishes even after their death. So this is common in second marriages where a spouse wants to ensure their children from the first marriage receive at least a portion of the assets. And finally, irrevocable trusts contain a spendthrift clause. These clauses keep the assets in a trust separate from the beneficiary and the settlor. So this ensures that the beneficiary's creditors cannot seize trust assets until they're completely distributed to the beneficiary through previously established channels.